Hey folks, this is Tolly and welcome to some more game dev. No, this is not a live stream you missed. I've been having trouble getting my live stream working today, so I'm just going to record this and upload it onto YouTube, which is what you're watching now. So where are we at? We are still working towards trying to get chapter 1 of our game done by January 19th. I've got 4 weeks off, closer to 3.5 now. But the last few days we've been working on cleaning up the project, as well as yesterday we were working on some movement problems. Specifically, movement was too overpowered. We added an attack of opportunity system. That looks like it's working well. Playtesting it a bit yesterday after stream. I'm liking that direction. Today though, we're going to take a look at our cutscenes. So I've been working on some dialogue paths, kind of just refining the rest of chapter 1, figuring out what all the lines are going to be, but we need to actually create those cutscenes as well as update some of the existing ones. So we're going to jump right in and take a look at the very first cutscene. I think the only real thing I want to modify on this one is the dialogue lines, and that should be a pretty easy one to start with. Some of the other ones I do want to add a little bit more movement and even some like almost combat in between some of the early cutscenes to try and create a bit of a breakup so it's not just so much talking. But let's jump in and start with this easy one and see how this goes. So if we take a look at this one, new game, we enter into this scene from the world rising from the clouds. Main character teleports in, and then we have just a little bit of dialogue with the character looking around, some questions being asked. I'd like to have the goddess pace back and forth here to really hammer home that she's not listening to Hero, so maybe that is something I want to add. And then most of this has just gotten rewritten a little bit, and then she teleports Hero. Again, there could be some animations eventually to kind of show her casting that teleportation or sending Hero down, but let's start with the dialogue and see how easy it is to modify that. So this is in the Goddess Realm. It is boot intro, I think, is what we're looking for. And this is a pretty complicated one. Not that complicated, actually. We do have a prefab for it. This prefab system was for generating the different steps, I believe. Yes. So I have a system where we can take our scriptable object, which is one massive list of sequence steps, and we can break it down into individual game objects, which have their own little steps. And this just mostly is helpful for when these get so large that it's hard to navigate them. If I was to construct that, builds just this single one here. Is that the same as this? It looks like it. I just want to validate. This is something I don't have a good way of doing, but I want to validate that the steps here are identical. Actually, I guess I do have a good way of doing that. One thing I could do is I could compile this. This is called Goddess Realm Boot Intro. How does this know? Oh, this is the directory, and then the prefab name is used to look this object up in the same location, I'm guessing. Okay, if I compile this though, and then off camera take a quick look at source tree. Okay, doing a little bit of digging, it does look like if I compile what was here in the prefab before, it does look different. I'm gonna mostly just test this prefab system, even though I think we could just be editing this directly in the scriptable object, just to kind of get myself refamiliarized with this, because it will come in handy as we start building more complicated sequences. For right now though, I am gonna break this up. I've just reconstructed the sequence and made this new step, which now should be identical to the original asset, and then I'm just gonna break this up into a couple of smaller pieces. I think I am gonna look at the inspector over here. This gets confusing having this one up as well. So how do I want to handle that? You know what I'll do is I'll lock this one, and then we'll look at the information here on the left. So I think I just want to break this up into 2 halves for our purposes right now, just to simplify things. So we'll delete up to the moment when the animation starts. So to the last piece of dialogue. And then here we'll delete all this all the way up to the top. And now this should be the same content, but kind of broken up into 2 sections. This will be like the initial conversation, and this will be teleport. And so now the thing I'd like to see about doing is maybe adding a little bit of pacing here before this dialogue. I have also updated a bit of the lines here. Most of this one stayed pretty much the same, just changing a little bit of the goddess's dialogue here to kind of give a little bit more narrative backstory into what's happening. Again, I don't know if this is going to be perfect, but I'm doing a dialogue pass. That does not mean it's final, just trying to incrementally improve stuff. Okay, so let's see if we can see what we did here for the players facing. So this is just changing players' direction. When we teleport, we do play an animation on the goddess, which is goddess container. Interesting. Some of this system was also built pretty early on. If we load up the goddess realm and look at this setup, what is the goddess in this context? It is an NPC spawner, and it has the entity of goddess. I'm going to guess goddess container is specifically the animation system. Part of me feels like we should almost recreate this cutscene from scratch, because I've kind of changed the way things are working. I mean, this works, but it's like it's not kind of following the same naming convention that I've had in the past. There's goddess statue. We are looking for the goddess container. Is the sprite object what has the entity goddess container here? It is not. So where's that entity name coming from? Is that getting generated when we hit play and it loads up this object? Where does that name come from? So if we go into here, this has the entity ID goddess. This has the entity ID goddess container. I didn't look there. Was that always there? No, this does not have that ID. So then if we go back to the scene view, is that... Nope, I'm not seeing that term here anywhere. So it must be being generated somewhere inside of the NPC script, I would guess. Let's look at the NPC state beta. As soon as Visual Studio finishes loading up. Here. We add a component to this, which is the container, and we also give the just straight entity ID to the animator. Okay, that makes sense. So then if we go back and look at our setup inside of the prefab, this is modifying an animation on the goddess container. So if we want to move just the goddess, I believe it should be this. It should just be the goddess name. Let's see here. If we go into combat, there should be a move to tile. If we drag that up here, and we have the entity ID here is goddess, and then we need to give it a tile to move to. So we'll need to go back and look at the scene. Ooh, question here is where does she pace to? Maybe she paces to 1313? Or are these numbers offset? I also think this room might be so old these numbers might not be correct. Alright, we'll give it a shot and see what happens. So we're going to have her pace to 13, 13, and then we'll do another one of these. Move 2 tile. We're going to override the range to 64 so that she can find any tile on the map, basically. Oh, I guess like a range of 4 would be enough because we're not going to ask the NPC to move that much further. So it moves to 13, 14, 12. When does the dialogue actually pop up? Because I want it to feel like she's pacing back and forth, talking to herself a little bit. So to sell that, maybe we just go left, right. So she goes like 14, 12, then 12, 12. And then when Hero speaks to her, she walks back to 13, 12. Let's give that a try and see if that works. So what did I say? She'll go 12, 12, 14, 12. I might be getting these backwards, but that's fine. She's just going to pace back and forth. Then she's going to say her line. Then we'll do another move 2 tile. After Hero asks, send me where, she'll walk back to her original position, which was 12, 13, I believe. And we need to make sure we are giving the right locations here. Okay. And these are also blocking. We won't have any dialogue progress while the movement is happening. We could also try having her move to 1212, talk to herself, then move to the other side, then Hero says something. Let's see how that feels. And we'll give this a tool a try. So we're going to compile this, and we should be able to see all of that be fixed in here, and we are seeing all of that inside of the actual scriptable asset now. So if we hit play, I think we have all the debug settings turned off. We should be able to see the cutscene. It worked. Hero looks around. And we get a null reference. Okay, so something is wrong. What are you complaining about? Looks like it is inside of the move to tile. It's failing to find a movement component on an entity with that name. What is it looking for? It's looking for that entity, get component unit, and then get the movement object on that unit. Okay. So if we look at the goddess container, this should have an entity of goddess. Oh, I got it backwards. Goddess container is the top route. Goddess is the actual animator. These may want to be flipped. I feel like this should be like goddess. Or maybe it should just be goddess container, and then this one is like goddess animator. If we're gonna take a pass at all the cutscenes, it's probably better to try and make it less confusing. But that's gonna mean breaking everything until we repair it. But I think that might be the right choice. Okay, regardless, let's at least see this working. So we're gonna come into here. We're going to grab this ID. We're going to go back into here, update these entity objects, save, compile that into the asset, and then hit play. We are seeing other errors here. What are these? This is Unity editor stuff. I'm not super concerned about that. Yeah, I think this has to do with our editor windows, which when it comes to tools, I'm okay if they're a little broken. They're not shipping. Still breaking here. Now it's failing on tile is occupied. That means it didn't find that tile, so I do think the numbers are off in this space. So if we look at this map starts on 2-2. If we go look at one of our more modern maps, it's also starting at 2-2 as the corner of the map. Interesting. So then it does look like I regenerated this at some point. What's the position of this? This is at 0-0. Oh no, I didn't click on the right object. Okay, this is at 0-0. That's 2-2. Let's go here. Oh no, I did click on the right thing. Yeah, so they're in the same positions and everything. So these numbers should be accurate. And the first one we're trying to go to is 12-12, which should be this one. Okay, I guess we'll have to debug. I was really hoping today wouldn't end up being a huge amount of coding and we could just do some content creation, but it seems like that will not be the case. Hopefully there's just a couple of initial hiccups with trying to remember how the data entry works, and then everything else can go more smoothly. But it has been a while since I have modified any of these cutscenes, so there may be a little bit of this just trying to figure out how this stuff works again. I did attach the debugger, that's good. Tile is null. I want this call. We've already passed it, so we'll restart that again. We could also take a look in the scene to try and get an idea of what these tiles' positions are. It's gonna do a bunch of that breakpoint, or it's gonna hit that breakpoint a bunch of times. I'm not sure why. I assume it's just loading up the world. So if we come into here and we click on this tile, this is position 10-10. So it is off. The positions are off by 2. But if I come into, say, this map, the tile that we start on should be 6-5. Maybe this map is also off with its numbering? No, this one is at position 6-5. Is the world offset by 2? This is at 2-2. This is also at 2-2. This one's 12-12 is at position 10-10, which is confusing. This one's also at 10-10. Why is the data off? Like, they seem to be positioned in the same spots. This one's at negative 1.5, negative 1.5, and its parent is at 2, 2. The start locations is at negative 1.5, negative 1.5, and 17.5 by 17.5. If we look at this one, 12, 12, its parent is at 0.5. So the entire prop section is offset slightly compared to the Goddess Realm. And then this is at 2. And then start points are the same, but it is this part that is different in the Goddess Realm. So if we come into here, this should be 0.5 by 0.5. And I don't have to save this. What if we just populate props? Yeah, the whole world is offset from where it should be. And that's true for all of these? Yeah, 0.55. But the start points, negative 1.5 and 17.5, look to be the same. And this part is the same as well. Interesting. What's most odd about this is that when we do shift this to be in the same plane, it means that this is now off the grid, technically. So if we wanted to shift everything over a little bit, we can, because I could come in here and I could change this one to be no prop. I could clear this and just like take its data and place it back over here, and we can adjust everything so it still fits in the right spots. But the fact that the grid is now outside the world here feels a bit broken to me in a way that is harder to fix. Yeah, because this is 10-2 is 8-0 in position. Yeah, that is where it's supposed to be positioned. So if I grab like this spot here and I was to drag it outside to the very root, it would be at position 2.5 by 2.5. Yeah, which I think makes sense. Okay, it's confusing, but I think this is set up correctly. It's just this one's the oldest. It's like one of the first maps we've made. And it's just slightly offset, which means the positional data isn't correct. So when we hit play here, this is going through and doing a bunch of sequence work on all the tiles. This is in the center of the world, though. Like, if we were to draw a line down the middle, or zoom in really close, I'm pretty sure this is pretty centered in terms of, like, where the action is taking place. In fact, we can see this has 7 on this side and 4 on this side. It's actually not center at all. Oh, but if we do shift this to be in the right spot, now it's got 6 on this side and 5 on this side. So it is fairly centered, as best we can get, with this being a 5 long platform in an even grid. Okay. Yeah, then I think I want to fix this map. That's actually like the first starting point, because it's going to be a pain every time in the future we try and modify stuff. So we're going to grab all of these game object pieces and we're going to drag them over by 2 so that this is within the grid. And now that this is within the grid, we're going to want to move all of these to their correct locations. So this one is just a marble 60 and it should be here. This one here is whatever this is, marble 40, just center aligned. Now these can be cleared. All right. This is a decal portal exit, which is going to be here. With a pixel height of 1, and now we can clear this one. And then to make it actually work, we're going to move this over. This is marble 10, which at some point got converted into a flower pot, it looks like. And this is marble 20. And then we can clear this and clear this. These need to get moved over as well. These are indicators of tiles that are not revealable to start with. And then I'm going to grab all of these and move them over. These red ones also need to get moved. 1, 2, 3. Nope. This one. These 4 need to get moved over. This used to be here, I believe, and that looks like a marble 20. And this one, I'm not going to guess. Marble 40. Okay. Marble 40. And then the scrying pool was just the scrying pool remade. What was the path for that? That was under also marble. All right. Now these are just some trees. They are... This one's just center. Full tree high detail. Under plants. Oh, it's the only one. So this can get cleared. This can get cleared. And this can get cleared. Now this one was a custom with -3 on the left depth and -2 on the right. And that would go here. So custom, billboard, flipped. All right, that all seems fine. Custom, it's going to be this one, -3, -2, flipped, and everything else should be the same. We can clear this to remove the custom prop and clear this one. Cool, so that should be repositioned. Now, these pieces, namely the interact to talk, is going to need to be over a bit. The actual spawning of the NPC needs to be over 1, and the spawn point for the player needs to be over 1. Save that. All the cutscenes we have in the Goddess Realm will now be broken, because the positions will be off from where they were originally. It looks like that would just be the tiles we were working with. So the position she'd be moving to is 10, 11, if we've done this correctly. I suppose we can try making that edit. So this would be 10, 11. That doesn't sound right. This would become 1013. And then this would become 1012. We're going to compile that back into the asset. Any of these other ones involve any movement? This one looks like it wants to go move the player back to its starting position, which I'm going to guess is 11-9 now. Oh, all the prop names are going to be different too. Yeah, what was 11-8 is now 11-9 most likely. So that's going to be all the teleport stuff. I'm going to just hit play and see what breaks here. Because I feel like there's a lot of data entry that needs to be modified. Yeah. Because we need to go into the actual, like, cutscene, like, intro, like, with the actual slide up of the world, and that all needs to get modified with the new positions as well. Yeah, there's a reason we haven't done this. I'm going to stop recording here for a second, and I'm just going to do a lot of this mass data editing, and I will be back once this has been set up correctly. Alright, after honestly probably about an hour of like tracking down small bugs and a good amount of data entry, I have gotten the Goddess Realm set back up to be in a similar layout and style to the other maps, so everything is positioned the same, and I can now know when I look at this tile that's 1011, I can put that into our cutscene system, and I know that the character will properly go to that location. So, that all being said, I did do a little bit of work in between off camera and got this cutscene set up. I got a little distracted honestly and forgot to hit record, but we now have it set up so that the character is able to move. Specifically, the goddess is moving back and forth. I did break up the dialogue a little bit more as well, kind of separating some more of the goddess's dialogue here specifically and Hiro's dialogue, so that there's more of a question and answer as she's moving back around. Anyways, enough talking about it, I'll show it. I'm feeling like it's better, and although it was a pain to update everything in the Goddess Realm, all the cutscenes related to this space, it, I think, is going to be better in the long run. It is a little weird to me that the world is now just one tile to the right of where it used to be. I don't think it's good or bad, it's still mostly centered, it's just more, like, uncanny, because I've been looking at this cutscene for so long in the other location. So yeah, she's moving back and forth now. Hiro's asking questions. She's kind of just pacing. And eventually, when he more directly asks, "Where are you sending me?" That's when she kind of like engages and says, you know, "You've got to go now." And Hiro doesn't have a chance to stop her. Ooh, there is a bug there though. So when Hiro gets sent, the fade is happening too quickly, it looks like. What did I break with that? If we look at here, this is what I'm trying to find, this tab. We look at the teleport. Let's bring it down a little. The background music was a little too intense. It should be listening for the pause event, setting the animation speed to 0, fading out the player, and then continuing. Is this pause supposed to be a lowercase? Give that a shot. But otherwise, I think this is working, and once I figure out this small bug with Hiro disappearing a little too quickly, I think we're good to move on to the next area. So we'll go through this. If this isn't the issue, I'm going to maybe look at it later, because I do want to just keep the momentum of working on cutscenes. Okay, now hero doesn't disappear at all. So it does need to be capital P pause, it looks like. But it doesn't look like it's fading out the player before starting up the animation again. I guess this is non-blocking, but it should be instantaneous on the frame where this is at max height. Nah. Alright, I'll dig into that a little bit more and maybe even just test against the previous version. Maybe it's working the exact same way as it did before and I'm just noticing a bit of a bug with the timing. Regardless, we're going to move on. One of the things I also did off camera was I went into the Demon Castle areas, and these rooms were also offset. The positioning was correct, so it had the correct 0.5 position for the kind of prop map editor, but these were named 00 and then continuing instead of 22 as like the correct numbering scheme. That I remember causing issues, especially when we get into the fourth room where we have the big fight with the demon general. And so I made a quick bit of code that simply just renames all the children objects to be in the same numbering scheme as the Goddess Realm and all the other woods. So we can see 2-2 in the top left, 17-2 in the bottom left, 18-3 here, and hopefully... Oh, I got it wrong somehow. Okay. 2-2, 17-2, and then 17-17 should be the other corner. What did I do wrong? Oh, it's these ones. I saw this in some of the other maps. I missed it here. These two are, technically speaking, not part of the map, but they are messing with the numbering. Okay, there we go. And then we'll drag them back in. There might be a way to generate this information based off of not the order of the children, but based off the actual position. Like if this is 14-13, I imagine I could also generate the name based off of its position in the grid. Just so it looks like +2. So that might have been a safer way to write that code, but regardless, I think this is correct now. Let's check the other rooms to make sure I didn't make a mistake with any of them. 17-17, that one looks fine. This one looks okay as well. And lastly... Oh, this one is not correct. Oh, it looks like I didn't even run the code on this one yet. Or perhaps didn't save it afterwards. So let's grab these 3 fades. Let's drag those out. Or, oh, I guess dragging them to the bottom also works, but I want to have them not renamed. So we're going to move them down. And then run this code. 2-2, 17-2, and 17-17. So that looks correct. We'll move the fades back inside because these objects do need to be underneath of this parent in order for the data to be saved out correctly. So now we know that the tiles are with the correct naming scheme in here as well. So as we modify the cutscenes, we won't have to worry about figuring out what the offset is. And this should all now be consistent across all of our maps. I guess quick thing I wouldn't mind doing is possibly putting those 4 rooms in this scene loader as well, as we're going to need to go back and forth between these. What did I actually name this thing? Grid loader? Yeah, grid scene loader. So instead of doing this... Oh, I figure out the naming in an interesting way. Yeah, I guess the easiest way to do this is going to be just to tack the 3 of them onto the end of the list of the simple ones. So this is Demon Castle 01. And this will need to be whatever the name of the scene is. So what are these ones called? If we go here... Oh, I can actually find this inside of the scene loader, I think. Is it in here? Somewhere in here. Yeah, these ones. This is the URL we need. So we can put that in here. And then the only other thing we need to make sure to do is increase the indice number. Copy this, increase the indice number, change this to room 2. This should just need to be room 2. And use this here and here. And just keep going. This becomes index 6, room 3. The drop-down works as well, but I find this has been way more convenient having just this grid of them. I think long-term, I'd like to make a bit of a change here where I can choose a drop-down to decide which grid I'm showing. And maybe realistically, we should change these ones to be like in some sort of grid naming convention similar to the woods area. These numbers all look updated. This is using the correct strings. Cool. So then if we come back in here, we should see a series of more buttons, but we do need to change the strings here. I missed this. Demon Castle 01 should be short enough to fit in these smaller boxes. Cool. And that should be good enough for now to get into these spaces. Perfect. So that's much easier to get to. Again, I think if there was like a little drop down here that would let me choose like whether or not we're looking at the Demon Castle or the woods, and it would update this grid based off of which zone we're looking at, that would be helpful, especially because we're going to have 8 chapters worth of like spaces, plus the Demon Castle technically is kind of almost like a prologue. So yeah, having a drop down here would be better in the long term, but for today this will at least let me get in here and modify these scenes more easily. So that all being said, what do we need to modify here? Landing. I want to work on this room's intro cutscene. The first time you load in here, where is that going to be? That's going to be in here, not under woods, but under the Demon Castle. TO1. We have the window, exit room, clock tutorial. Is that the first one? This is an intro on entering. Yeah. So this is no longer a clock tutorial. This is when you enter into this room for the first time, it triggers this cutscene. I don't know if this addressable name matters. We're gonna break stuff today. I've been like too fragile with this, or too concerned with this being fragile and just leaving it in a less clear state. So we're going to update all of this information to be better. And if that means that we end up breaking everything, we end up breaking everything, and we will fix it. So intro dialogue, that means that the sequence is going to need this new dialogue information. Good. Now, we don't need to break this one out into a prefab like we were doing with the intro, because this one's quite straightforward. I will look at it in here because it's just a little easier to read in this section. I'm going to add some breaks here because I would like to have this cutscene have a little bit more motion, similar to how we just added more movement to the intro cutscene with the goddess. So if we go here, dialogue advance, and we set this to 1, then we have these 3 dialogues, and we can do some movement in between. This is also the old dialogue, which I would like to update with kind of a better version. I don't know if it's perfect, but I still want to have this kind of like isekai type feeling to it while not being as direct. So we're going to go, what's going on here? This seems like something out of straight of an anime or manga. And then we're going to do manga? Now I'm self-conscious about that, but we're going to move on. And then we need actually one more piece of dialogue here. We're going to do this one as well. Just taking this from a sheet I have off camera. So what's going on here? In some sort of storage room. I think I want movement in between this. Maybe there's some direction facing stuff here where Hiro looks around a little bit. And then this one may not need any movement at all, but let's add a third advanced dialogue in here. If we don't need all three, we can delete if need be. And let's see if we can add some movement. Movement is inside of the combat system. Move to tile. This should be the player. And that is the entity. For the position, where are we going to have Hiro move to? Hiro spawns here on 514. So we could have Hiro move to like 614, maybe? Seems fine to start with. Let's see how that feels. So we're going to have what's going on here. Hiro steps forward. Were each of these dialogues closing self? Stay open. This is going to need to close self because I don't want Hiro moving with the dialogue. The system can handle it, but I just don't think it looks super great. I'd rather see the dialogue close than Hiro moves. This one can close self. And then I think this one can stay open. So close self steps forward. Close self looks around. Stays open. Close self. Okay, let's do that as the dialogue setup. And then in here, I think we just need the look around part. So if we go back into combat, that is also where the facing is set up. So we can do the entity ID as player. And then our facings, what is that? What is our facing directions? I believe... what is it again? This is north. This is west, south, and east. So if we want Hiro to look around, Hiro will have just walked this way and will be facing east. So we could have Hiro look north and south, I guess. See how that looks to start. It might not be right, but we'll give it a shot. This is combat I'm looking for. And we will do player and south. So look down, look up towards the window area. I guess the way I've set this up, we're going to have the initial landing, stands up, says this line, moves a little bit, looks around, some sort of storage room. Actually, this works. This isn't what I was originally envisioning, but I think this will be okay. I feel like at some point I would like to have some sort of animation here. Let's just play with the idea of an animation. We'll set an animation parameter. Now, what is the animation parameter we care about in this situation? Let's take a look at maybe Omni Weapon. No, these are all playing animations on the props, which I'm going to rework that to be less confusing. It looks like we're just doing player death. Really? So it's both the player is the entity that we move, as well as player is the entity we play animations on. But for the intro, the goddess had to move with the goddess container, and just goddess was used for animation. Something's a little odd there, but I'm gonna trust that this is right. So if we come back into here, let's have this be a player animation. You know what? Let's pin the Omni Weapon one, because I want to use this as reference. So yeah, let's lock this and then go back to the intro here. So we need to give it an animation parameter. What animations do we have on hero by default? A lot. What if we just use interact? It's going to be back down this way, it looks like. Somewhere in here. So if we do interact, it looks like we want this to be a trigger for this animation. So this isn't a great reference because it is a bool parameter. I think we do need to set bool parameter to true for a trigger. We'll make it blocking, so the animation has to finish. Duration should be 0. Yeah, I don't know how all these parameters work anymore. Maybe we shouldn't be using this one for reference. What about the ogre container? Bash, trigger, bool, 000, no tick box. But this one is non-blocking. Let's go back to the boot intro one. In here, when we have the animation for the goddess falling, that's a bool with nothing and it's not blocking either. Okay, I guess we'll just try and see what works. So for interact, we'll do trigger, we'll set it to blocking, and animation on complete. What does this tick box do? I'm gonna go find out. Let's go dig around real quick. Modify animation animation parameter sequence step. Sure. Let's look here for end animation. This adds an observer to listen for when that animation is complete, I'm guessing. Yeah, and it sets the animation to complete. Okay. And then this wait for seconds says wait for the duration if it's greater than 0. If it's a trigger, though, we would instead do a wait for animation complete, wait on animation event sequence. What is this one doing? This is setting up its own observers and waiting for the animation to finish. So if it's a type trigger, I don't think we need this end animation on complete. Oh, I know what that's for. I think this is for when you're doing bool-based animations and you want them to end when the bool animation has run its course. So kind of treating a bool animation like a trigger, essentially. Or more accurately, overriding the duration. So I think this is saying, wait, this would be useful. Yeah, because this is a while loop in here. Yeah, so if the animation is ever complete, it just like finishes this function immediately. So this wait end on animation complete is saying wait for a duration, but if I have this tick box, then it will end regardless of that duration. So this is related to bool-based animations. And I think I can add a tooltip here to give me that information for the future. Comment could also work, but tooltip is probably nicer. Used for bool animations, overrides duration. Duration must be greater than 0. Ends blocking ends when animation is complete. So for bool animations, if you have a duration greater than 0, the blocking of this sequence step will end when the animation is complete. Does that work? If we come back in here and then we hover over this, yes, cool. So in this situation, because this is a trigger, we don't have to hit this button, and we don't need to worry about the duration because it shouldn't use that. This is blocking, and it should wait until the animation is finished. And bool parameter I do think needs to be set, even though it's a trigger, because I think this is used as what we set. Even if it's a trigger type, we're setting that to whatever the bool parameter is. Part of me feels like this should be ignored if this is a trigger and just always be true, because I don't know why you would be hitting a trigger type and setting it to false. Like, that's just not how triggers work. But I'm gonna not make that change yet, because that has potentially bigger ramifications. I mean, does it? It's probably just a good idea. Did we fail to load? Yeah, okay, so renaming the addressable broke things. Interesting. I'm going to guess that's because we need to rerun the animation or the cutscene parser because we've changed the data of the addressable name. Now if we hit play, because I think the data in the JSON file that we build for every one of our cutscene objects need it to be updated. That's still not working. Still looking for the clock tutorial instead. Does our cutscene parser only modify? Cutscene parser. Alright, thought it would be easier to find this, but we can type a little more to find it. This loads the object at the path, reads all the text from it, deserializes it into a cutscene design data holder. Yeah, and it modifies things. Interesting. So that means if we go look at our JSON file for cutscenes, I am not seeing a JSON file. Am I blind? Possibly. Let's look in here. So it's not going to be under scripts. It won't be under TSVs. It'll be under the JSONs. Cutscene. Did I type cutscenes maybe? And then if we look in here for... Actually, it's right there at the top. This one still exists. And I'm guessing because it's higher in the list, it's getting found instead of the new one. So if we just clear this entry and then hit play, it should find the correct one. Yeah, and it loads up. Ooh, okay, interesting. All right, couple of things. That worked exactly how I told it to. I'm glad it's functioning now. Now we can start playing with it and seeing if we can improve it. First off, there was no delay between the look south and look north, which meant that it was not noticeable. So we will add a small delay in between here of like something like a quarter of a second, I think. So player will move here, look south. I guess I could also add a small delay after the move. This shouldn't be as necessary, but I'm just thinking that timing's going to feel better. So a tenth of a second, look south, wait a beat, a quarter of a second, and then look north. Now that now I'm in some sort of storage room. This must be the Demon Lord's castle she mentioned. And then I think I'm going to have Hero look forward again. So we're going to go cutscene. And then we're going to do, no, combat, set unit direction. And we're going to have Hero face. Oh my goodness. Click this, click that. There we go. Add player, and then look east, I believe. Then do the interaction animation, which it'd be nice if this was some sort of like sweeping hand animation or something, so that Hero was like, you know, running their hand through the mist. Running his hand through the mist. So then what are we doing? I suppose that explains the mist. I didn't see the mist at all though. Oh, is this the same bug? We've seen an issue for a little bit now that for some cutscenes we're not loading up the mist correctly. Yeah, it's missing except for on the edges. What if this animation was non-blocking instead? So this animation plays at the same time as this dialogue comes up. That might feel a little better. Now for the mist not appearing, let's go take a look at the intro cutscene. What are we using on load here? Spawn revive. This is using lightning enter scene. Lightning enter scene. That's this one. This has a reset fog function. If we look at transition enter, this also has a reset fog. Apply fog. This one also has apply fog. So why does this one not have the fog appear until after Hero moves? Let's look at a contextual move. Reset fog, apply fog. Set fog low. And then this one doesn't apply fog, which I think is just updating the edges, basically. Yeah, so reset fog is setting the fog to low, and then each of these tile sites that reveal the tiles also, I believe, do, yeah, set fog medium. These names, I think, or these values got flipped around at some point. Medium ended up being the... Oh, it's because these numbers are different. So yeah, this is... They're kind of inverted, though. So low is the amount of fog opacity that we want, essentially. When... No, is that right? You know what? I don't know exactly. I can't picture it, but basically these values are the opposite of what you would think they would be. And so low ends up being the kind of thicker, the, you know, more opaque fog, and medium ends up being the lighter one, which I think is backwards from how I think it should be, but it's fine. And then, yeah, as soon as we move, we actually see the fog fill in. Oh, maybe it's because the fog is not noticeable, but it is there. Like maybe we don't have a big enough area around Hero to see the fog. I think an easy way to test this would be to just have Hero move forward more during that cutscene, because then we should be able to get a better idea of whether or not the fog is actually filled in correctly, or if there is an actual bug with it. What am I looking for? I'm looking for the cutscene. Where did it go? Here, intro. So if we have Hero move not to 614, but let's say like 914, much further down the board. What does that look like? We're too far zoomed in now. Also, I noticed it looked like one of the dialogue boxes, this one was outside of the realm. Or outside of, yeah, this one's, it's overflowing. Also, Hero didn't move. $9.14, that looks correct. It is set to blocking, so it shouldn't, like, the facing stuff shouldn't have interrupted it. Oh, we didn't give an infinite override on the range. So Hero didn't search far enough to find the position to move to. And yes, 64 is essentially infinite for us. Our boards are not larger than that. Hero still did not move. Why? $9.14 should be this tile here. Hero was able to move forward one tile. It feels like it should have been an override range issue. Maybe it's because I didn't hit save or something, but that's not how our scriptable object stuff should work. Yeah, Hero is not finding that tile to move to. Alright, what am I putting, what data am I putting in incorrectly? Like, this looks correct. We'll have to just look and see what tile it's finding, if any. Oh, it didn't even hit. Oh, I never attached it to debugger. Yeah, that would explain it. Also, before I forget again, I just want to make this dialog box here large instead of medium. Be nice at some point if that could, like, figure it out on its own. What is this? Why? Is this Visual Studio leaving behind a pop-up? Feels like it is. Cool. I will close Visual Studio after we test this. So we find the board, we try and find the tile at the said position. The points are going to be 9 and 14. We're going to try and find a tile at that location. Oh, did it find it? Yeah, it found tile 914. Okay. And then we're going to ask the movement system to walk to that tile. Yeah, that looks right. Oh, what happened? We went into the animation system. I think I just F11 too far into something. No, we are just like in no man's land of data. Okay, so I think it failed to move. Put this traversal here. Like it didn't find a position to go to. It's finding that tile. It's asking... Yeah, it's not finding a path is the primary issue. Okay. So where does that... We got to look at the search function. Here, movement, get tiles in range. So this should have the override value of 64. So it should have a range of 64 it's going to search in. It's going to do an expanded search from 514, trying to find... What was the add tile? Was it just... Expand search? Yeah, as long as the distance is greater, it's going to keep adding them. So it should add basically every tile at this point. It should search through every tile on the board and add it as a location to go to. As long as its distance is less than the range of 64, which they all should be. Oh. It stopped way earlier than I think it should have. It got to like distance 2 and then left. So somehow the pathing is broken here on this particular map. Unless the override range is somehow not getting used correctly. Yeah, it should look around. Check the tiles next to that tile. It does some random direction stuff. That shouldn't have an impact. And it should just keep expanding the search over and over again, checking every tile, flooding the whole board until it eventually finds its target. So we saw it break around distance 2. It's found tile 616. So it's gotten that far down the board. And each of this for loop is essentially checking all the directions around that tile. Yeah, it's continuing to search. It found tile 715. It has several of them that it's still searching through, but it's starting to find that a lot of the tiles are already been checked, essentially. And at some point, it stopped adding new tiles. $412. It shouldn't care whether or not a tile is revealed or not, so it's not like... Oh, maybe it does? I'm not seeing anything in here that would discount a tile for not having been revealed yet, though. What are these sequence steps? Oh, this is code I made to show the search process visually. I might want to just turn that on and see what's happening, because I think that'll be easier than trying to parse through all of this information. Yeah, it's only got one tile left to check, which is 714, and I'm gonna guess that it just doesn't find anything else to add around this tile. Yeah, it's got nothing left. Oh no, it found a few more. Are the results basically every tile it found? It looks like it. So this is the amount of tiles it found, but it never found past 9? 514. I'm seeing 5, 6, 7. 7 is as far down as it ever gets. If we were to look in here at the scene, what tile is this? You know, it feels like it is not searching beyond revealed tiles. That's definitely what it's feeling like. Board search. Tiles, get tile. I guess I want to check this value to see what tiles is. Because if tiles is only these tiles that have been revealed, that'll tell us something. That's interesting. I guess I've never run into a situation where I've wanted to have a character move to a tile that wasn't yet revealed. No, it contains all of them. Unless somehow try-get fails, but I don't think this is my custom version of try-get. I think this is just a regular... Oh, we're not in the right spot yet. Well, it can't be failing, because this is just the board, which is the central thing that contains all our tiles, and it is successfully finding that tile. We know that because it gets added to the list, so we can see that 914 was added. But it's when we go through and try and search through every tile, for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to find the tiles beyond the currently revealed ones. Could it be the distance is not being set correctly? We set distance to max value when we clear the search, and that just loops through all the tiles. So yeah, every tile should have been set to max value. So we're looking to see when this system finds or is checking its current tile of at least 7, I believe. Because this row here was 7. So we're going to take that out. We're going to move this breakpoint down 1. And we're going to keep an eye down here to see when it finds 714. So now it's checking the directions around 714. That's 715. That's 713. That's 814. Why does it not look at that one? Okay, it does. Does it add it to the queue? is not occupied. Okay, yeah. We only try and check tiles that are walkable, but we do not set tiles to be walkable until they are revealed. This is hard to see in here. Where is the point where we actually do that? Yeah, here. If it's not revealed or revealed in progress, it automatically returns pit. So that's not a walkable location. Okay. I want that gone. Can I close this? Will that make this go away? Yes, cool. So, the temporary fix for now, I understand what's happening. I'd like to just be able to move to 914, but seeing as it won't let me without rewriting a fair amount of code, and I'm not entirely sure how I even want to rewrite that code, I'm going to just do this in a way that should work. We're going to first move to 714, which by moving to 714, it should reveal 2 tiles in front of it, and we should be able to reach here. I mean, this wasn't even my goal, though. My goal wasn't to have you walk all the way down as part of the cutscene. It was mostly just to see if the fog was working. It's not... okay. When we do this move to tile, this isn't even doing a normal contextual move ability, so it doesn't even reveal anything. Okay, so that hack won't work. What if instead we do board reveal tile tiles sequence step? What if instead of trying to move in order to reveal them, we just reveal those tiles? So let's do let's see here. Just this chunk here. So 815, 915, 813, 913. We'll reveal those ones. So 815, 814, 813, 915. And to remind myself, my goal is just to see whether or not the fog is working correctly. But I realize this isn't even really going to tell me that. Because we're not actually doing the move stuff, which applies and resets the fog. So even if we reveal these tiles... yeah, the fog is definitely not showing up. Should this move to tile actually be performing a move ability instead of just like directly telling the character to move? I don't even know how to start on that. Well, I have some ideas. I just want to open a script so that Visual Studio will reopen. Okay. What do we... let's take a look at the move tile. Move to tile. So this is just moving the character directly using the move traversal. Is there a way to instead activate the move ability? There must be. We have the movement, but we should also be able to find the unit. And if we can find the unit, we should be able to do a get component. I guess instead of unit, what we actually want is the ability component, I think. I'll clean this up after, but if we do this, then we can do ability dot get. No? Pretty positive this has some sort of function for... Oh, not ability, abilities. If we get the unit's abilities, then we should have a get ability by input, and one of the inputs should be navigation, which will get an ability. This returns an ability info, but we really just care about the ability component. Once we have the ability, then we could use a ability sequence step, which just performs an ability basically on specific targets. In this context, in order to perform the move, what would the targets be? Select ability screen. Normally when we do a directional input, we give it a direction of whatever the direction vector of that input was as the ability target with the unit's origin tile. We do a little bit of fancy work to make sure that tile is walkable. And eventually we just perform the ability with the ability target. When we perform the ability, in most situations, it just creates an ability sequence step with those targets. So when we perform a move ability, we don't perform the move ability to a specific tile. We perform that move ability with a specific direction that we want to move towards. So if we wanted to use the move ability, instead of directly telling the unit to traverse to a specific tile, we would need to construct several sequence steps, each of which is figuring out the direction the player needs to move to get to the next tile in order. This is all doable. The question is it worth the effort? Yeah, probably. Because otherwise, in situations like this, where I want to have the character just move forward slightly, I would have to manually reveal all the tiles through the cutscene instead of just letting the move ability handle it for me. And I definitely want the tiles to reveal. I don't want to have the character just move forward and there just be like an edge of the world there. Well, maybe not. When Hero does the interact hand forward motion, we could do the natural sight activation to reveal the tiles, essentially recreating the move. I think, again, I want to go back to what I was saying before I had this thought. I do think in almost every situation, if I tell the character to move somewhere, that character during that cutscene's movement should reveal the tiles as they move, I think. So I do want to potentially change the move tile sequence step to actually use the unit's move ability, whatever its move ability is. And if it's going to be an NPC or a monster, it should at least hook up its navigation ability so that I can, use this functionality. But there will be situations like this where I do want to bypass the move ability and directly move the character without triggering all the extra logic around revealing tiles. Because I do think it would be cool if Hero did that interact animation and then the tiles revealed and the fog pulled back. I don't know if I can get that to look good, but I like the premise of that idea. Because it would make this line feel better. Okay. It feels like I'm having to constantly make new functionality instead of just build the cutscenes, but at some point this has to stop. At some point we'll find that, like, oh no, I have all the tools I need and we can just build cutscenes. But at least for today, that is still not true. I think I want a new sequence step. Which I think becomes move ability to tile. I could also see it being navigate to tile. Maybe this goes in the cutscene section. Navigate to tile sequence step. Okay. And this does pretty much the same thing as the move to tile. The main difference is we want to grab this logic and we want to we shouldn't need the movement at all. We can look at the AI system. The AI director does something similar. It gets the tiles, then it loops through the target destination tile that we want to reach, constructing a list of targets, and then we loop through that list of targets here, constructing a series of ability steps with the move ability of that unit. Oh, do we just do it that way for the enemies? The unit just has a move ability. Is that true of our player container? It does not, but it could. But is any of our enemies set up to use the navigation system? Currently no, but it would be very straightforward to just have this be assigned to input navigation. Do every one of these have a unit with the movability assigned? It is here. I guess this was because I wanted the AI to more directly grab this information, maybe? Or this was just a hack that never got modified. Okay. This one has it. I'm gonna guess they all have it. That one has it. That one has it. What about something like the goddess container? Does that have a movability assigned? It does, because it was the NPCs were originally copied from AI. So it's only the player controller that doesn't. But that's an easy thing we could just add. So we just add contextual move here. Same thing with the Wisp. Just use the Wisp move. Funny that that one's set up incorrectly. And then instead of having to do the check for the abilities, we can just do unit.movability the exact same way here. So I think we can just steal all of this pretty much. So we can grab here, bring this over into this chunk. I'm just going to keep copying things and hopefully all the errors go away. Okay. So this becomes the override range. Target tile. What is the target tile in this context? It is the move location we're trying to get to. In here, that's going to be this tile. Okay. And we're going to be setting this value. Is that right? It seems like it would be. Yeah, we get the tile and then we use it. Yeah, that seems all fine. We don't need to do any of this anymore. We just need to get the unit, and then from the unit we can get the movement. I am going to remove this concept. Actually, I'm going to replace this concept. Instead of passing in a movement, we will have this take in a unit instead. Yeah, this will be better. And copy and paste this over here. And then we'll have unit be null by default. And if unit is null, then we will do this get entity ID name, assigning it to this value, and then we can do everything else like so. Next problem to solve, we need to, instead of doing an add to AI plan, we need to compile this list of sequence steps internally and then have them play before moving on. Do any of these tile-based sequence steps do what I need to do? This one does. So this compiles these sequence steps into a internal list, which would be inside of this base class. And then we call base.invoke with the sequence builder, and that should just run it before moving on. So at the very bottom after this for loop, if we just do that, it should run any sequence steps inside of this component before moving on, or this sequence step. And then we just need to add them here. We need to make sure to do clear in case there were any before this, so that can happen here. And then we can do dot add. And this should construct a bunch of move abilities for the unit. And then this sequence step won't continue if it's blocking until the player has moved to that tile. This does not fix the can't move into areas that are not unrevealed, but this should trigger the animation stuff. I just want to test this. Intro. And we are specifically looking for this one. So instead of using move to tile, if we now do cutscene navigate to tile, the data is pretty much the same. We're going to pass in the player. It'll find the unit from that. We can go, we want to go to 714. We shouldn't need this step anymore. And we will override the range so that it can go as far as it wants. Okay. Does that just work? That is the question. It looks like it's mostly working. I'm surprised we didn't reveal 914, but that seemed to be what happened there. I see. That's because we didn't walk far enough. I think I see what happened. We told it to go to 714, but I think it only stepped forward 1, and we know that 714 was this tile here, which is 2 in front of the player. So that sequence is not adding up enough sequence steps, I guess. We will just add a breakpoint. Oh, it's because I stole this code from the AI, which says only move as far as your current movement allows, basically. We can just get rid of this. This is more for the AI than it is for the player / for a cutscene. That's all that is. We're essentially, that code says don't go as far as you need to, go as far as your movement system will allow, with a kind of hacky true statement, which I'm going to find a better way of doing in the future for the AI. But again, kind of stole some hacks. We'll fix it now. All right. Now the character should walk all the way to the edge, and then once they reach the edge, they walk even further. So I think the fog is showing up right at the beginning. No, that can't be true either, because look, the fog should be centered around Hero. Oh, that's because we did a move to for the second one, not a navigate to. So the fog didn't update. All right, so if we do navigate, and we actually update this one to be a navigate as well. Player, infinite range. Infinite range for searching. And then delete this one. Now everything will get revealed. Yeah. So I think the fog is actually showing up correctly around Hero. It's just at the beginning the space is so small it looks like the fog isn't even there. Actually, there's a better way to test this. We could just reveal more pieces. Because if we reveal more of the map, that should tell us the starting state better than moving the character. Because maybe the issue is with the initial reveal setup. No, the fog is actually showing up correctly. We can see it here on the edge. Yeah, and it properly does its thing when it's... when it's moved through. Okay, yeah, no, this seems like it's working. Where we had seen an issue with this though before. That must have been... I'm gonna save this. If we come here, does this one have an issue? Oh, it does? Kind of. Okay, I see the issue with this one. The issue with this one is this reveal system is not filling it in with low fog as it's revealing. It's just clearing the fog. Well, I don't think it's updating the fog at all. Okay, we'll get to that one in a bit. But I think that this setup is doing what it's supposed to. And we can see it just by having more revealed on the beginning. So when the character lightning's in, there is a light fog a little bit away from them and a darker fog on the edge where tiles can be revealed, essentially. And as the character moves, the fog is properly being displaced by the player's presence. Okay. Cool tech. I like the navigate to versus the move to. I'm liking the way that's feeling. How would this feel if we revealed the walls at the beginning? Would this feel more complete? Because we're revealing this side, it looks like. Do we reveal the corner? We do. So what if we were just revealed the entire starting area? I wonder if this storage room would read better. Yeah, I think it does. Interesting. One other small thing I'm noticing actually from having that set up, we have the sides of these as green. I wonder, I'm not going to deal with that right now, but we should replace those with the similar color wall pieces on the bottom of these tiles. The green is a carryover from early prototypes. Okay, well, so I think went down a bit of a rabbit hole. Let's bring it back. Where are we at? So we're trying to get a initial cutscene that's kind of revealing the tile revealing stuff and drawing attention to the fog and the dark mist and talking a bit about the Demon Lord's castle. I think this is mostly working. It doesn't feel quite fully there though. I'd like to try the thing I was discussing where like Hero steps forward and the fog doesn't reveal until Hero does like an interact animation. That might be... Is that overkill? What if instead of doing the navigation here, what if we have Hero just look around at the beginning and then say this is a storage room? And then... maybe we drop the animation entirely. Maybe Hero just moves and then comments on the mist. Let's see how that feels. Maybe that's better. Especially with more of the room being revealed off the start here. Maybe the look around hits a bit better. The dialogue could also be updated to address the mist kind of moving. And then there's a push to move forward through the dialogue, which I'm liking. We could also have the cutscene auto move Hero. So like Hero drops in here, steps forward, comments on the mist, and then we could have Hero walk over to the window. Right now we have a little like almost Easter egg of the like look through the window and say all I can see is dark mist, but maybe that should be part of that initial cutscene, is Hero looking out the window and just saying, you know, there's just a dark mist as far like blocking out the view. Maybe that helps sell the idea a little bit better, and having Hero walk over and comment on this as part of the main narrative could be interesting. We might also want to get rid of these sun rays if we're trying to say that if the world outside is just darkness. I guess that doesn't really make a ton of sense. I just think they look cool. Where's that shadow coming from? Is that from these? That is from these. Yeah, okay. I think we remove these for now. Kind of wish I had a... I kind of wish I had some sort of like disable prop button that I could use so that I don't have to like completely remove it. Okay, cool. Yeah, the question now is just like how much detail do I want to put into every one of these cutscenes? I think it's a lot. That look around is too fast. I feel like that could be slower. Okay. Yep. I think I'm going to stop recording for today. Mostly because I'm getting tired of talking. But there's a lot more that I want to figure out here. So I'm probably going to continue working on some cutscenes off camera. We'll be back next Saturday, I believe is the plan. Yeah, Drixie's gonna join me for an art stream where she's gonna be working on some art in the background. We'll just do 2 hours that day, so I'm gonna be working on cutscenes probably a little bit in some of this time off, but we'll see with the holidays. And then Sunday we'll have a regular two-hour stream, hopefully if the internet is better then. But hopefully folks enjoyed this kind of recorded version. Basically the same as what I would do on a live stream, but uploaded as a video after the fact, and I think it went okay. We'll see. I'm gonna just slap it into a video editor, making all these clips into one video and then upload it, so hopefully it works out. For now though, this is gonna be Tolhi signing out. Later folks.